Hey everybody, welcome to our very first Lightboard post of the week. So I'm John Wagnon along with Jason Rahm here with DevCentral. And what we wanted to do is take a question and answer that was posted out on DevCentral this week and highlight the question and then the answer or some of the solution possibilities. So big shout out to MW who had a question this week about some geolocation issues, and he's got some users in India that are accessing applications in the US, in the United States. So users in India coming over to the United States-based systems, and he's got HTTP profile configured, TCP profile, doing web acceleration, doing SSL offload, so a lot of different things like that. And there's some latency issues between the users that are in India and then the systems that are in the United States. And so his question is, can you configure via an iRule or maybe via a local traffic policy, that kind of thing, based on IP address, can you configure whether you turn on or off acceleration policies or maybe a different HTTP policy or TCP policy, that kind of, or TCP profile, that kind of thing. So we wanted to talk about some of the different options that you have based on where you are and what you can do. So Jason, why don't you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so with TCP, the further you get away from the destination, the bigger deal that latency becomes. And so, within the US, everything's pretty much 60 milliseconds or less, unless you're, in a really bad spot. But generally 60 milliseconds or less, and that doesn't really start to hurt you with round trip times and whatnot. But, as you're getting out to 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, and of course, other side of the world, you're getting close to 300 milliseconds. Well, that can be painful, and so one size does not fit all with TCP profiles, and so it's a genuine problem that needs to be solved. And so there's a couple different ways that you can solve that. One of the ways that you can solve that, Hannes Rapp actually posted in there that you could have. So let's say this is a big IP, okay, and you have a front end VIP. Let's call this V1 and then V2. And then based upon your, let's say this is our DNS geolocation policy, and so, if you're coming from India, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to redirect you, or I'm going to direct you over to VIP2, and that's going to have a particular set of TCP, settings. And then, but if you're not in India and you're less than, say less than 100 milliseconds, then I'm going to go ahead and send you over here. So we'll send those guys over here to V1. From India, we're going to send you over here to V2. So that's one way that you can handle it.
And you would have all the profiles and all that configured separately per VIP, right?
Correct. Yeah, each of these VIPs would have its own unique TCP profile,
right,
to handle the different needs of your clients who are much further away from a round trip perspective.
Right.
And so that's one way to handle it. Another way is starting in 11.6 and more so in 12.0, the options you have in iRules with the TCP based iRules is you can do a lot of the settings to where you can set the send buffer and the receive window and your max segment size. And for example, you might per flow want to be able to control Nagel's algorithm. Nagel's is enabled by default. And so some people have complained, well, why is Nagel's enabled by default? And so, our engineers, they go through quite a vetting process with all the different types of traffic in not just HTTP, but all other protocols. And that one generally just seems to be more helpful than it is harmful. However, that's not true for every single application. And so by application, so you could by application, by a virtual server, you could just say, by default, I'm going to leave this Nagel's disabled, or I'm going to leave it enabled. Well, you can by flow choose to enable or disable Nagel's. And so, that's one example. There's tons of TCP commands out there. And so if you know what you're doing and you have a lot of time to test in the lab and then do some pre-production testing with a sampling of traffic, there are options for you on a single VIP if you don't want to go the route of having multiple VIPs established. There are options for you in iRules specifically for being able to control by flow how that performance works. And so you could look at the round trip time, and then you could alter the characteristics based upon that round trip time, and you could do that down to tens of milliseconds. And so you could have an entire matrix that you build out for, every 30 milliseconds, I'm going to alter the behavior of the TCP characteristics. So very powerful. To your point about HTTP and compression and any other protocol, you can do that in iRules. You can switch those profiles, no problem. You can also do that in a policy, in the local traffic policy. But another option available to you, and I've highlighted this before in a lab setup that we did, is that you could have, let's say we have 5 different compression or, let's say, optimization profiles. And so I'm going to attach those to 5 back-end virtuals. And so this front to back is called VIP, targeting VIP. And so if you need to go out and look up a solution, you can look VIP targeting VIP or VIP to VIP. And so what this allows you to do is, based upon the characteristics of your traffic, you could have an iRule that sits here or a policy. And then you can target any number of these back-end policies. So say, it comes in and I want to hit, app 1. Well, app 1 is specifically geared, say, to this compression and optimization profile. And maybe by geolocation, our outside performance is here, but once we get to the app-specific performance, I'm going to send you over here. So there's all kinds of different configurations that you can do at the outside VIP level, or with a VIP targeting VIP solution, be able to combine those behaviors. So, like pretty much everything else with Big IP, there's a number of solutions available to you. You just have to go through the engineering exercise of finding out what's best for you.
Yeah. So I guess the bottom line is there's, like you just said, there's a lot of different options out there. And it's really cool to know that, if you do have this latency issue of, hey, I got guys way over here across the world, and I just want to speed things up for them, you don't really have to stop just by saying, hey, I'm going to get them to this virtual server quicker. Once you're there, you can still you can continue to optimize that experience for them with a lot of these options that Jason outlined. So yeah, again, great job out there asking questions, and thanks again to Hannes Rapp, who's one of our MVPs, by the way, right now, for helping answer. So yeah, that's one of the powerful things about the DevCentral community, is that as you have questions, the community members are out there to answer them. So, but we wanted to take a couple minutes here to highlight one of those. And so thanks for watching this Lightboard post of the week, and we'll come to you with more of these as we see questions and answers out there. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys out there in the community.